Okay, this is a spot I'd like to put in a switch and connect this stub track right here, where these cars are. I'd like to put the switch in right here and connect it here. This is Scale Tracks from MTH. Ideally, I'd get a Scale Tracks number 6 switch, which is their biggest switch, but I can't find a Scale Tracks number 6 switch because they don't make Scale Tracks anymore and it's hard to find. I was actually at York this past weekend, and I did actually find a number 6 switch, but it was in such bad condition that I did not buy it. I did come up with an alternative, and we're going to see how it works. This is a 30-inch section from right here to right here. I'm going to take out this section, and we're going to put in an Atlas 2-rail 7.5 switch that's been customized to have Scale Tracks ends on each end, and also a custom installed center rail. Why did I pick 2-rail instead of just Atlas 3-rail track? Well, this is a pretty low profile rail, and it's very close to the 2-rail Atlas track. So that was the major driver, and it was a fun little project to do. Let me show you how I did it. So I was able to get this 7.5 turnout from Atlas, and it was a very attractive price. It ended up costing me $25, which is a great price for any turnout. It is 2-rail though, so I need to add a center rail in here to make it a 3-rail track. And what you see I did down here is I soldered in a piece of Scale Tracks at this end, and I soldered in a piece at this end. So this whole length here is 30 inches, and it's going to be replacing a 30-inch section of Scale Tracks on my layout, so I can have this turnout here. So I'll show you how I did it. I'll add another piece of Scale Tracks here so I can have my siding done in Scale Tracks. You can see the difference here between the 2-rail and 3-rail rail joiners. It actually works better to use a 2-rail rail joiner with this rail and then modify it by cutting out the bottom of only half of it so we can slide it in between the top and bottom of the railhead on the Scale Tracks. And we'll find that it'll fit perfectly and accept solder perfectly. So I need a nice clean flat connection on the Atlas track, so I did use a Dremel tool and removed the little plastic connector here because that's not needed. And I'll do the same thing. I'll use the Dremel tool to cut off this portion of the Scale Tracks because I won't need these connectors here, and that'll give me enough rail to make a clean connection. Now this railhead on the 2-rail tracks is great because it's very similar to the Scale Tracks. It's a little bit off, but when you add in a 2-rail connector, you can get them to line up very well. What you have to do is actually cut out the bottom of the rail joiner on this side that connects to the Scale Tracks. As you can see, it doesn't fit the same way on the rail. It actually fits in between the bottom and top of the rail. But when you solder it in, it's still nice and tight. You can see I cut the middles out of the rail joiners here to accept the Scale Tracks and sort of sandwich the rail. If we did this right, should be a nice fit. There we are. Nice fit and ready to accept solder. I should mention the other thing I actually had to do to these to make these work well with 3-rail trucks, high rail trucks, is I had to move these guardrails out just a smidge and actually glued them in place. The reason being is the 3-rail truck is just a little wider with the flange, and so what I was getting was a little bit of a bump through here where the truck was rising up off of the rail, and in order to avoid that and make the truck real smooth, I needed to move those guardrails. The other thing I did is I took the Dremel that you just saw and I made this frog groove a little deeper. You can still hear a little bounce, but it's nothing like it was before, and it actually rolls really nice through there by just changing that frog and grooving that out a little bit. So here is the Atlas 7.5 switch with the modified scale track ends fitted onto the layout. It fits perfect. And what I did is I also purchased a piece of a 2-rail flex track from Atlas, and I decided to use that as the center rail because the fit was perfect and the rail height was perfect to make the connection onto the scale tracks. A little bit of ballast and some greenery, and I am ready to go. So would I recommend this process and do this in the future? Not if I can get the proper tracks. I mean, if I can get a scale tracks piece, that would be ideal. And even if I can find an Atlas 3-rail piece, that would have been ideal too, because I've actually connected Atlas 3-rail to my scale tracks and figured out how to line it up. But that can be kind of pricey. These turnouts, a 3-rail 7.5 turnout can be over $100. So as I mentioned, I got this 2-rail turnout incredibly cheap, $25, and thought it was worth a try and worth the investment of time to try to make it work. And I'm really happy with the results. I love the low profile rail, and I think it looks great. Thanks for watching.